Hello, everyone. I never thought I'd find myself here, but here I am, writing this post because my life has turned into some kind of broken TV drama over the past few days. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm shattered, angry, confused, and just looking for some advice or support. So, my name is Mike. I'm 32 years old. I work in IT, and until recently, I considered myself a happily married man. Ashley, 29, and I have been together for 7 years, 5 of which we've been married. We had a good relationship, or at least that's what I thought. She's always been charismatic, easygoing, and loved attention, but I never thought it would become a problem. We met in college, started dating in our senior year, and got married 2 years later. I always believed she was the one and that we would be together forever. Of course, like any marriage, we had our issues. Sometimes she could be a bit selfish, spent too much time on social media, and enjoyed drama more than I would have liked. But I loved her, so I tried to overlook those things. The problem started about 6 months ago when my younger sister Lauren, 27, started dating a guy named Trevor, 30. Lauren is my best friend. We're very close. So when she told me she was seeing someone seriously, I wanted to meet him and make sure he was a good guy. At first glance, Trevor seemed like a regular guy. Tall, athletic, confident, maybe even too confident. He had a bit of a cocky attitude, always tried to be the center of attention, joked around a lot, sometimes too much. He works in sales and acted exactly like a typical salesman, overly friendly, overly charming, overly sticky. But I decided not to judge too quickly. If Lauren liked him, then fine. But almost immediately I noticed something odd. He and Ashley, well, they seemed to be talking a lot. At first it was just casual comments that could have been taken as friendly. "Oh, you're so funny. Now I see why Mike married you." Or, "If we had met first, maybe I would have fallen for you." I thought it was just his sense of humor, but the more time we spent together, the more I noticed that they were way too comfortable around each other. Ashley started putting more effort into her appearance, even though she had never been too focused on that before. New lingerie, frequent outings with friends, even though she had never been very social before. I joked once, "What, are we in a new honeymoon phase? Why are you suddenly so focused on your looks?" She just laughed and said, "I just want to look good. That's normal, right?" I didn't think much of it then, but now, looking back at everything that happened, I wish I could go back to that moment and shake myself for being so blind. Meanwhile, Trevor started showing up in our lives more and more. He was always around. We saw him at family dinners, at friends' parties, even when I just wanted a quiet night at home. Lauren and Trevor would randomly drop by. But what really alarmed me was when I realized he was at our house, even when I wasn't there. One day, I came home from work early and saw his car parked outside our house. Only Ashley was home. I walked in and asked, "Is Trevor here?" She raised an eyebrow in surprise. "No, why do you ask?" "Because his car's parked outside." She didn't even flinch. "Oh, right." He stopped by because he was waiting for Lauren, but she was running late, so he left. I nodded, but something about her answer didn't sit right with me. It was too quick, too rehearsed. That night, for the first time, I started wondering, am I missing something? Is there actually something going on between them? But at that point, I had no idea that soon my suspicions would turn into a horrible reality. I don't know how long I just sat there staring at the screen. My eyes skimmed over those short but poisonous messages that changed everything. I felt something inside me break, like I was a cracked vase about to shatter into tiny pieces. "Today was incredible. You drive me crazy. I can't wait to feel you again." Mike is so stupid, he doesn't even suspect anything. And then, the final nail in the coffin of my marriage. "Trevor, I need to talk to you. I'm pregnant." Pregnant. With him, not with me. I don't know how long I sat there blankly staring at those words, but suddenly I felt like I couldn't breathe. I jolted up as if struck by electricity and started pacing around the room. Then I stopped. Breathing was hard. My head was spinning. I tried my best to gather my thoughts. How long has this been going on? Why Trevor of all people? Was this just a random affair, or was there something real between them? I tried to convince myself that this was just some insane nightmare, that any second now I'd wake up and everything would be back to normal. But there was no waking up. This was real. How did it all start? Now, looking back at everything that had happened, I just want to punch myself in the face for not noticing the obvious. It started gradually. At first, it was just the way they looked at each other, longer than necessary. Little gestures, a light touch on the arm, laughing at jokes that weren't even funny. And then Ashley started changing. She suddenly began taking care of herself more than usual. New lingerie, expensive makeup, hours spent in front of the mirror, even though she never used to care about putting on makeup just to go to the store. But what really set off alarms in my head was her phone. It used to just sit on the table or nightstand. Now it was always in her hands, always on silent, always face down. I also noticed something else. Our sex life became different. At first, it just became less frequent. Then it practically disappeared. If before Ashley would initiate intimacy, now she either refused or did it without any enthusiasm. She started saying she was too tired, that she had a headache, or that she just wasn't in the mood. And now everything made sense. It wasn't because she was tired. It was because she was fucksing someone else. I decided to dig deeper. I opened my laptop again. This time, I wasn't just reading their messages, I was searching for details. Times. Dates. Places. I can't believe we almost got caught today. It was so risky, but that just made it even hotter. When was this sent? I checked the date 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Ashley told me she had a night shift at work. I even made her coffee in a thermos and kissed her before she left. That same night, Trevor texted her, "Lauren is going on a business trip tomorrow. See you?" And the next day, Ashley told me she was having a girls' night. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, looked in the mirror, and barely recognized myself. Red eyes, an empty stare. I went back to the room and grabbed my phone. I could call her right now. I could text her. I could text him. But I did nothing. I just sat there, listening to the rage and despair buzzing in my head. The only thing I knew for sure soon, one of them would regret this. I knew I wouldn't just let this go, but at the same time, I didn't want to create a pointless scandal. No, I had to do it right. I wanted the truth to hit them both so hard that they wouldn't even have a chance to wriggle out of it. Gathering evidence first, I needed to check how long this had been going on. I went back to her messages. I scrolled through the chat history all the way to the beginning. The first time she wrote something even remotely suspicious to Trevor was 6 months ago. Half a year. 6 damn months she had been sleeping with him behind my back. I read through their conversation. Each message felt like a stab in the back. I don't know what happened with Mike. He's so boring in bed. You're so passionate, not like my husband. I can't wait to feel you again. Then I noticed something else. They mentioned the places they met up. Sometimes it was his apartment, other times rented hotel rooms. I quickly checked my bank statements, and there it was. 3 different hotel payments in the last 2 months. Under my name. I had literally been paying for their dates. I felt my blood boiling, but I still held back. I wanted to shatter their deceitful little world so completely that they would have no excuse left. The first attempt to catch her in a lie. The next day, I acted completely normal. I made coffee, brought it to her in bed like I always did, and casually asked, "What are your plans today?" "Oh, so much work," she said, stretching. "And then I might go out for dinner with Sarah." "Oh, with Sarah?" I asked, pretending to be interested. "Yeah, she just broke up with some guy. She needs support." I smiled and nodded. I already knew she wasn't going to Sarah. After she left, I called Sarah. She had no idea that she was supposedly meeting Ashley that evening. I needed to be sure. So I followed her. And there she was, pulling into the apartment complex where Trevor lived. I parked at a distance so she wouldn't see me. She got out of the car, looked around as if checking if someone was watching, and went inside. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. The final step before the storm. I could have gone in right then, kicked the door down, started a fight, but I wanted this to be grand. I went home, sat down, and sent a message to Lauren, Trevor's girlfriend. I need to talk to you. It's important. An hour later, she arrived. She looked worried, not knowing what was going on. I silently handed her my phone, showing her the messages between her boyfriend and my wife. Her face changed with every line she read. First confusion, then shock, and finally, rage. "Is this a joke?" she whispered. "I wish it was," I said. She shot up from the couch. "This is disgusting. How could they?" I nodded. "I have an idea," I said, and she stopped, looking at me. I explained my plan. We would make them confess everything themselves. The grand scene. The next day, I texted Trevor. "Come over tonight. We need to talk." I did the same with Ashley. "Babe, I want to have a romantic evening together. Dinner at home, a surprise." And then I invited Lauren. She was supposed to arrive a little later once I had already set things in motion. The evening arrived. Trevor came a little earlier, looking slightly uneasy. "What did you want to talk about?" he asked. I smiled. "Oh, we'll wait for Ashley." When she walked in, she saw Trevor, and for a split second, her face froze. I handed her a glass of wine, sat across from them, and took a deep breath. "Let's talk honestly, okay?" "About what?" Ashley laughed nervously. I pulled out my phone and, without saying a word, started projecting their messages onto the big TV screen. Every message, every plan they made, every insulting comment about me and Lauren, every joke about how easy I was to fool. Lauren walked in at that exact moment. She didn't say a word. She just walked up and slapped Trevor hard across the face. "You bastard," she hissed. Ashley, meanwhile, sat there wide-eyed, trying to say something. "This isn't what it looks like," she screamed. I laughed. "Oh, really? You want to tell me that I can't wait to feel you again means something else?" She started crying. "I can explain." Okay, go ahead. I'm listening," I said, crossing my arms. She turned away as if searching for an excuse, but she knew she was cornered. I made a mistake," she stammered. "Hey, a mistake?" Lauren exploded. "You two were screwing for 6 months. It was just physical. It didn't mean anything." I nodded. "Okay, so it didn't mean anything. Then this didn't mean anything bullshit can get out of my house." "Mike, wait." "Number?" "Get out." She pressed her lips together, then suddenly stood up. "You'll regret this," she spat. I laughed in her face. "The only thing I regret is not seeing your true colors sooner." She stormed out of the apartment. Trevor opened his mouth to say something, but Lauren just shoved him towards the door. They were gone. Lauren and I just sat there in silence. "How are you?" she finally asked. I took a sip of whiskey and sighed. Honestly, I've never felt lighter. After the door closed behind Ashley and Trevor, silence filled the apartment. Hollow, intrusive, suffocating. I stared at the empty couch where, just minutes ago, the woman who once swore eternal love to me had been sitting. I should have been torn apart. I should have felt destroyed. But you know what? I felt relieved. It was as if I had been freed from an invisible yet unbearably heavy chain. I finally saw the truth I had refused to acknowledge for months. But then came the emptiness. I picked up the glass with the remaining whiskey and took a sip. Lauren sat across from me, studying her hands. "How are you?" I asked, breaking the silence. She gave a bitter smile. Like someone who just found out their entire relationship was a lie. I nodded. "Well, welcome to the club." We sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then I picked up my phone. There was one more thing I needed to do. I opened our family chat in the Messenger app, where my parents, my sister, and Ashley were, and I sent everything. Screenshots of their messages, Photos of her entering Trevor's apartment, bank statements, everything. I wrote only one sentence. Ashley has been cheating on me with Trevor for 6 months. I'm getting a divorce. I wasn't going to stay silent. I refused to live in lies, and more than anything, I didn't want to be pitied or seen as a fool. Seconds later, messages started pouring in. Mom. Oh my God, Mike. I'm so sorry. Sister. What? Dad. Throw her out, son. Don't waste another second on her. And then Ashley texted. Ashley, you ruined my life, Mike. I just laughed. The first day without her. That night, I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt empty, which was strange. She had slept here just last night, yet now it felt like she had been gone forever. I stared at the ceiling, trying to process my emotions. Was I sad? Yes. Was I hurt? Very. But above all, I felt disgusted. I remembered all their messages, their cruel words about me. I remembered how she admired him while I was nothing more than a backup plan. I got out of bed, walked to the closet, and started throwing her things into boxes. I didn't want anything in this house to remind me of her. I no longer wanted to live with the ghost of betrayal. And then she came back. The next day, I was working from home when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it. Ashley was standing there. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair disheveled. She looked lost. Mike, she started. What do you want? I crossed my arms. I don't know what happened to me. Her voice broke and she sobbed. Please let me explain. I looked at her. This was the woman I had loved, the woman I had dreamed of building a family with. But this was also the woman who had spit on our relationship while sleeping with another man. I took a deep breath. There's nothing to explain. Mike, please. She grabbed my hand, but I pulled away. You made your choice, and I made mine. She sobbed. You can't just erase everything like that. No, Ashley, you erased everything. She looked at me for a few more seconds as if hoping I would change my mind. But I didn't. And she knew it, so she simply turned around and walked away. I closed the door, and for the first time in days, I felt free. As soon as the door closed behind Ashley, I just stood there for a few minutes, listening to the silence in the apartment. I thought that after she left, there would be emptiness, that I would feel destroyed, broken, alone. But you know what? I felt relieved. Yes, the pain was still there, but along with it came the realization I would no longer live in a lie. The divorce and its aftermath. The very next day, I called a lawyer. I want to get divorced as soon as possible. He asked if we had shared property, children, loans. Luckily, we hadn't had kids yet, and the apartment was only in my name. That meant the divorce process would be simple and quick. I texted Ashley. I filed for divorce. You'll get the papers in a few days. She didn't respond, but the next day my sister called. She came to me in tears, she said. And, I asked calmly. She says she regrets it, that it was a mistake, that she didn't mean to. I laughed. Didn't mean to? So she accidentally slept with your boyfriend for 6 months? My sister went silent. You're right, she finally said. That's her problem. But, Mike. What? I filed to break up with Trevor too. I smiled. Smart choice. A new chapter in life. After all that, life slowly started to get back to normal. I started going out more, reconnecting with friends. I got back into sports, changed my style, updated my apartment, and I realized something important. It's better to be alone than with someone who doesn't appreciate you. I had no regrets. I didn't regret losing Ashley. I didn't regret learning the truth. It made me stronger. A few months later, I was officially a free man, and when I signed the final papers, I just smiled, because now my life belonged only to me.